Have you ever like sat down and thought, wow, I'd really love to just build my own world, you know? A world filled with towering mountains and bustling cities and just hidden dungeons everywhere?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think every kid kind of dreams about that at some point.
I think so too.
Mhm.
We're actually going to explore that today. We're going to take a deep dive into the mind of Gary Gygax, the co-creator of D&D.
The legend.
And we'll unlock some of the secrets of his world-building formula, a formula that's honestly still influencing fantasy creators even today.
Absolutely. His work is just as relevant today as it ever was. I mean, it's like he figured out the secret code for making these immersive worlds, and we're all still kind of following his lead.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we'll be looking at this really insightful article from LitRPG Reads. It's called Gary Gygax's Genius D&D World-Building Formula, Why It Still Works for DMs and Writers.
Great article.
So yeah, get ready to unlock the secrets to crafting incredible worlds that will honestly just fuel your imagination and create countless stories.
So it all begins with one deceptively simple but powerful question.
What is at the heart of your world? That's Gygax's first step, conceptualization.
Oh, the big idea. I like that.
Exactly.
Makes me think of like choosing between a world of high magic and mythical creatures or like a gritty cyberpunk dystopia with technology and magic all mixed together.
Right, and that one choice influences everything.
Wow.
I mean, everything from what kind of creatures you'll find in your world to the societies they live in, even like the magic system itself. It's like setting the DNA of your creation.
I like that analogy a lot. And just like with DNA, even the smallest tweaks can lead to huge differences. So once you've got that core concept down, what comes next?
Well, Gygax believed in moving from the abstract to something more concrete, and that's where Step 2 mapping comes in.
Okay.
He was a huge fan of using hex maps.
Yeah.
You know, those cool honeycomb-shaped grids?
I love them.
To actually plan out the physical geography of his worlds.
I gotta be honest, I've always loved hex maps, too.
Yeah.
There's something so satisfying about their structure. But do they still hold up today?
We have all this super advanced mapping software now.
That's true, but you'd be surprised how relevant hex maps still are.
Oh, really?
They strike a balance between structure and flexibility that's hard to find anywhere else. Each hexagon is like a container for a piece of your world, like a forest, a mountain range, a huge sprawling city.
Yeah.
They help you organize your world without getting bogged down in tiny details.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you've got your vision, you're mapping things out.
Yeah.
Now you need something exciting to actually fill those spaces. So where does Gygax take us next?
This is where we get to the heart of Adventure Step 3, dungeon design.
Uh-huh.
Gygax was amazing at making these like underground labyrinths just filled with challenges and mysteries and, of course, treasure.
Ah, yes, dungeons. A classic part of any fantasy adventure. But what made Gygax's dungeon so special? I mean, dungeon's a dungeon, right?
Not quite. He approached them like an architect designing a building with multiple levels. Each level had its own theme, its own challenges, its own unique flavor.
Yeah.
It was all about a sense of depth, both literally and figuratively.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
It's like he was always building in layers, adding depth to each element.
Right.
He didn't want things to just be surface level.
Right.
It's like he wanted there to always be something more, to discover something hidden.
Exactly. And that thinking goes for Step 4, too. Town creation. Gygax knew that towns are more than just places to rest and restock.
Yeah.
They're like tiny little versions of the larger world. They reflect the cultures, the history, the conflicts of your creation.
That's so true. It's easy to just think of them as pit stops for adventurers.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, towns are where so many memorable moments happen.
Absolutely. Think about all those classic scenes in fantasy novels where the heroes meet up at the tavern, trading rumors and making alliances, or those times when a normal-looking town is hiding a dark secret. Gygax understood that towns could really shape the story and give players chances to interact with the world in meaningful ways.
So we've got the concept, the map, the dungeons, the towns. That's a pretty solid foundation. What's the last piece of the puzzle?
The fifth and final step is wider world development. This is where you zoom out from the local stuff and start thinking about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Gygax wanted creators to build continents with diverse cultures, religions, political systems, even different races and species.
So it's like building a world from scratch. You start with the foundations and then just layer on all the details, the complexity, the depth. Gygax's approach is like this amazing blueprint for bringing your creation to life.
And what's cool is that it's so adaptable. It's really stood the test of time changing right alongside all the new tools and technology creators have access to. Let's look at how Gygax's formula has been used and improved upon in our digital age.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating about all this. The core ideas are timeless, but the ways we go about it keep changing. Like with mapping, we talked about how hex maps are still useful. But how has digital mapping software changed things?
Oh, man. It's totally revolutionized the way we see and interact with our worlds. Like, think about software like Incarnate.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine just dragging and dropping elements to make these super intricate landscapes. You can change textures, add things like forests and rivers, and even create atmosphere with fog and lighting. It's like having a digital artist's toolkit right there in front of you.
Incarnate.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. It sounds so powerful, like you can really bring your maps to life. It's a far cry from graph paper and colored pencils.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And these digital tools let you add a level of detail and make things way more dynamic than we could before. You can even create interactive maps that change based on what the players do, revealing secret areas or shifting the landscape. It's like the map becomes part of the game.
Wow, interactive maps.
Yeah.
That takes immersion to a whole new level. It's like you're stepping right into the world, not just looking at it from the outside. But what about open world exploration? That's so popular in games these days.
Yeah.
How does Gygax's approach with all its structure fit with the freedom that open world games are all about?
It might seem kind of strange, but Gygax's formula actually works great for open world storytelling.
Yeah.
Remember all those blank hexes on his maps? They weren't just empty space. They were like invitations to explore places where players could find something new, something unexpected.
That's true. He wasn't trying to map out every single detail. It was more about leaving room for the unknown, for those moments of discovery that make games so fun.
Exactly. And that sense of freedom is even bigger in modern open world games. Developers use techniques like procedural generation to create these huge, sprawling landscapes that feel organic. So say you're building this huge forest.
Yeah.
Instead of placing every single tree yourself, you can use an algorithm to make a realistic forest with trees, clearings, rivers, even hidden ruins. It saves you so much time, and you can really focus on making the experience immersive.
Procedural generation. I've heard that term, but I don't really know how it works. It sounds really technical.
It's actually pretty simple. It's about using algorithms to create stuff based on rules and parameters. So for a forest, you might tell the algorithm to make a certain number of trees, give them a range of heights and different species, and the algorithm takes that and creates a forest that looks unique and believable.
So it's like having a virtual world builder that does the hard work, so you can concentrate on the details in the story. It sounds amazing for creating big, immersive worlds.
It is, and it makes the world more dynamic and reactive.
Yeah.
It can change based on what the players do, which leads to emergent storytelling, that perfect balance between having a plan and being open to seeing where the story goes.
Emergent storytelling. That's the dream for a lot of game designers, right? Creating a world that feels truly alive, that reacts to the player's choices. But how do you balance that with the story you've already planned out? How do you make sure the story stays on track while still giving the players freedom?
Yeah, it does sound like a tricky balance. You want to give the players freedom, but also keep them hooked on a good story.
It is, and that's where Gygax's focus on dungeon and town design comes in handy. Those pre-designed spaces are like anchors in the open world. Think of them as carefully crafted set pieces where you can tell more focused stories and create challenges.
Because even in a huge open world, you still need those structured environments to kind of ground the experience.
Right. They provide a framework for the narrative, give you opportunities for character development, plot twists, and of course all those classic dungeon crawls we all love. They're like pearls on a necklace. The string gives it structure, but each pearl is unique and beautiful in its own way. I really like that analogy. It helps me see how you can have both freedom and structure in an open world.
Yeah.
But what about the people involved? We've been talking about tools and techniques, but what about the dungeon masters and players who actually bring these worlds to life?
Yeah.
What's their role in how we interpret Gygax's formula today?
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? The human connection, the shared experience of storytelling. I think Gygax understood that on a deep level. He made a system that encourages people to work together where the dungeon master is like a guide and the players actively help shape the story.
It's that back and forth between the dungeon master and the players that makes tabletop RPGs so special. It's like they're dancing together and everyone contributes to the performance.
And technology is playing a bigger and bigger role in making that collaboration happen. Virtual tabletops, online platforms, tools like Discord, they've all made it so much easier for people to connect and play together.
Yeah, it's breaking down all the barriers of distance. People can share their love of RPGs no matter where they are in the world. But what about the people who still prefer to play face-to-face?
There's definitely something special about gathering around a table with your friends, rolling dice, and sharing stories. Being physically present with other people, the shared laughter, the gasps of surprise, you just can't get that same feeling in a virtual environment.
True. It reminds us that technology is just a tool. It's the human connection that makes RPGs so great. Well, we've covered a lot today. We went deep into Gygax's five-step world-building formula, looked at how those ideas are being adapted for modern games, and talked about why the human element is so important in all of this.
Yeah, and through it all, we can see how Gygax's legacy still inspires creators and players. He gave us a framework, but he also told us to experiment, to break the rules, and to make the world our own.
It's like he gave us the seeds, and we're all growing our own unique gardens of imagination.
That's pretty awesome. But before we wrap up, I want to give a shout out to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello for their insightful article, Gary Gygax Genius D&D World Building Formula, Why It Still Works for DMs and Writers. It's a must-read for anyone who wants to learn more about this stuff. Absolutely. And to everyone listening, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite world-building tricks? What challenges have you faced, and what victories have you won? Tell us your stories in the comments below.
We're all part of this amazing world of imagination, weaving together stories that take us to other realms. Until next time, may your dice rolls be lucky and may your worlds be filled with wonder and adventure.